I wasn't suspicious. I wasn't checking his phone. I wasn't looking for anything at all. My phone was dead. His was right there on the table. I still remembered the password. He never changed it. What I found wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. No pictures, no long explanations. Just a few messages and the quiet realization that the person sleeping next to me had been living a completely different life. He didn't forget to cheat. He forgot to change the password. Before that night, my life looked normal. Not perfect, just normal in the way most marriages are after a few years. We woke up at the same time, argued about small things, forgot to replace the milk, talked about bills more than dreams. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't distant enough to worry me. If anything, he was predictable. Dinner at the same hour, the same spot on the couch. His phone always face down, but I thought that was just habit. We still laughed sometimes, still shared inside jokes no one else would understand. And when things felt quiet between us, I told myself that was what stability looked like. Because no one tells you what betrayal looks like before it happens. It doesn't arrive with shouting or slammed doors. Sometimes it looks like a man who kisses you goodnight, sets his alarm for work, and leaves his phone on the table without a second thought. If there were signs, they were subtle enough that love explained them away for me, and I believed it. I didn't hesitate. My phone had died in the middle of a message, and his was closer than the charger. He was in the shower. The water was running. The door was closed. I picked it up the way I'd done 100 times before. No guilt, no nerves. The screen lit up. I typed in the password without thinking, the same one he'd used for years, the one that used to mean something to us. It unlocked instantly. I didn't go looking through his phone. I wasn't searching for proof. Then I saw the notification, a name I didn't recognize, pinned to the top of his messages. That was the moment something shifted. Not panic, not fear, just a quiet pause. The kind where your body understands the truth before your mind is ready to catch up. And I tapped on it. The messages weren't explicit. There were no pictures, no plans written out in detail, nothing that screamed betrayal at first glance. That almost made it worse. The first message was short, casual. "Did you get home safe?" I scrolled up. The tone shifted slowly. Inside jokes, familiarity that didn't belong to me. Little things stood out. A heart where it didn't need to be. A "miss you" typed too easily. Messages sent late at night and early in the morning. There were gaps in the conversation, hours missing, days that felt intentionally quiet. I realized then that some messages had been deleted. Not all of them, just enough. Enough to leave a shape behind. Enough for my mind to fill in the rest. My hands didn't shake. My chest didn't tighten. I just kept scrolling. Each line made something inside me go colder. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't harmless flirting. This was a connection, built slowly, carefully, in the spaces where I wasn't looking. And as I stood there, holding his phone, listening to the shower run, I understood something very clearly. This wasn't the first time he'd done this. It was just the first time he'd forgotten to hide it. I told myself to stop, that I'd already seen enough, that anything more would only hurt, but my thumb kept moving. I checked the call history, numbers I didn't recognize, calls made when he said he was working late. I opened his calendar. Nothing obvious at first, just meetings, appointments. Then I noticed a pattern, blocked off time, repeated days, hours marked as busy with no explanation. I went back to the messages, scrolled higher, past the point he probably thought I'd reach. That's where I found it, a message that hadn't been deleted. I hate lying to her, but I don't know how to stop. There it was, not a confession meant for me, but one that confirmed everything. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It wasn't a mistake. It was a choice, made over and over again. I locked the phone and placed it back on the table exactly where I'd found it. The shower turned off. I stood there, feeling strangely calm, knowing that the life I'd been living no longer existed, and there was no way to unknow it. I didn't confront him right away. When he walked out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, steam still clinging to his skin, he smiled at me like nothing had happened. I watched him get dressed, watched him move through our room the way he always did. That night, we sat on the couch. The TV was on. Neither of us was really watching. At some point, I spoke. "How long?" He didn't ask what I meant. He just stared at the screen a little too long before answering. "A few months." I nodded. "Were you ever going to tell me?" He shook his head, slowly. "No." There were no excuses, no dramatic apologies, just silence filling the space where trust used to live. I realized then that some conversations don't fix anything. They only confirm what's already broken. And in that quiet moment, I understood that the betrayal wasn't in the messages. It was in how easily he'd been able to come home and pretend. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't beg him to explain. I went to the bedroom and closed the door. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of someone I no longer knew moving around our home. In the days that followed, things ended quietly. No big announcement, no dramatic goodbye, just two people realizing they were no longer living the same truth. I packed a bag, left behind things that were too heavy to carry. What surprised me most wasn't the pain, it was the clarity, because once the truth was visible, there was no confusion left. He had forgotten to change the password, but what he really forgot was that trust, once broken, doesn't reset, not with apologies, not with time. Some doors close loudly. Others close the moment you finally see what's been open all along. And I walked away knowing I hadn't lost everything. I'd just stopped lying to myself. If this story felt familiar, you're not alone. Some truths change us quietly, and we carry them long after the words end. If you want more real stories like this, honest, slow, and human, subscribe and stay a while.